The White House Crypto Summit was last week, and instead of being a who's who, it turned into more of a who's that. But more on that in a second. Welcome to Crypto Currents, the weekly podcast where we give you everything you need to know about crypto from people that are actually working in the industry. No FOMO, no shilling, just intelligent conversation about the things you need to know. Think of us like that old coffee pot that's been working for 20 years. There's no frills, just getting you what you need. Today, I'm joined by our resident degen, Kale,
Hello.
and Katya from the Mew team.
Hey, Vince.
Hi, guys. So, we'll get to the Crypto Summit in a little bit. So, let's start out with something easy and fun. Fidelity is looking to integrate staking into the Ethereum ETF. Now, we've talked about ETFs on this show a number of times, but this is kind of I think, the next logical step forward to add staking to the ETF, especially in these down times, so people can continue to at least see something happening, number go up technology. But talk to me about the staking, Kale.
Yeah, like you said, I think it's cool to see as far as number go up technology is concerned. But as far as the actual values of crypto and what crypto was built on and founded on, it is kind of scary. Just
Scary how?
just because it's a centralized entity, and it's them offering staking is cool in the sense that it's okay, well, now Fidelity people like my grandma and grandpa or all those people, they can stake their Ethereum through Fidelity. They don't have to do any extra steps. But it's on the other hand, if we're gonna have a million new people staking ETH, I'd rather them do it the old way, where everybody is their own validator, and then
Wow, Moneybags over here being his own validator.
well, I mean, maybe not that extreme, but it's if Fidelity's doing it and then Fidelity gets shut down, it's all of those people's computing power, it was just for nothing. We might as well. Kind of defeats the purpose, in my opinion, of the whole decentralized ethos.
Interesting. Okay, Katya.
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised by Kale's take because he is the one who wants to put a Bitcoin node in every home, right? So
Lunacy.
let's put an Ethereum node in there as well while we're at it. But yeah, I mean, it's not surprising. I think it was only a matter of time, when ETFs wanted to include staking because in traditional finance, you always see people wanting to put it back into, do more with it, invest it, reinvest it, put it into circulation. So the staking is a no-brainer for to follow ETFs in that way. But yeah, I do agree that it kind of puts this very different kind of concept, staking, decentralized staking. It was designed to be different than your bank savings account or bank investment instrument. It's it has, I feel, potential to compromise the neutrality, the decentralization of chains. Even now, we talk about with proof of stake, either with mining or with proof of stake. Honestly, there's potential for centralization when one entity gets more ETH, more power to take over the chain.
Fans
So
of Silicon Valley, the show, will know this as a 5150 attack.
there we go.
Which,
So
ironically, was how I first learned about it when I was first getting into crypto.
there you go. There you go. So yeah. And on one hand, it can challenge the decentralization of the chains, and on the other hand, like Kale mentioned, already we have sometimes issues when people are investing into funds and they don't know what kind of investments are being made on their behalf. They don't really understand them. Sometimes that can be a problem. And with chains, they don't understand that at all, most of them. And so it's there's potential for problems there. But I think it's inevitable. It was only a matter of time when funds wanted to do that.
I'm kind of two minds of this, right? Like part of me loves the idea of people being able to put their quote unquote ETH to work through the ETF. What I'm afraid of is that they're just going to be like, yeah, and this is like a dividend. And I think what could be beneficial is if they actually educate people what is staking, because then that at least gets these people that are just dipping their toe into crypto to understand what's happening, why this works, how decentralization works, and they earn rewards on that as well. I'm also intrigued to see kind of what kind of cut Fidelity's going to take. And to Kale's point, if Fidelity goes out of business, I think there's going to be a lot more big problems. So I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of like people custodying their ETH with Fidelity, because there's so many 401ks with Fidelity that if they go bottoms up, the world is in trouble.
I don't know, bro. You're sounding like 2008 right now.
Maybe too big to fail, but it's Fidelity. It's not a bank. It's Fidelity.
But, to your point, when you say, like it should come, and I agree, like idealistically, I completely agree with you that it should come with education. It should come with something that can enable people to enter crypto in more meaningful ways. But on the other hand, I mean, do investors ever really want to know anything about except like number go up? Like they might want to know where their funds are going, so that they're not like completely blind to it. But are they going to be like, okay, explain to me what this company does? Like some people are like that. I know some people are like that. Some millennials are very vocal about being like that. But I feel like that's a minority.
True, but I feel like most investors, at least in the stock market, know what DRIP is. Do you guys know what DRIP is?
Never heard.
That's dividend reinvestment, and I can't even think what the P stands for. Like it's just when it automatically
procedure,
maybe something like that. I don't know. Dividend reinvestment, and then the P is there, and it's just when you take those dividends each quarter, month, or whatever, and it rebuys the same security with that. And so I feel like a lot of these platforms let you toggle that on and off. And so I think there is, at least for me, some people that are like, yeah, let me understand this a little bit better. And I think even if just 10% of the people that are, investing in Fidelity's ETH ETF educate themselves a little bit more about staking, that's probably a good thing, right?
True that. A little bit counts.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, well, let's get off staking and talk about stablecoins. So a banking committee is voting today on a stablecoin bill that's going to deal a lot with like oversight and reserves. And this is interesting to me because I remember, everyone remembers Terra Luna absolutely depegging and just going absolutely 100 to 0 very, very quickly. So I do think that this is kind of a step in the right direction. But what are you guys' thoughts on this stablecoin bill?
I think it's not surprising that and makes sense that they want to deal with stablecoins first. I mean, that was the plan from what Sachs was talking about like a few weeks back about the crypto plan in general, and they did say they wanted to focus on stablecoins. And I think stablecoins, specifically the ones that are pegged to the dollar, which I think is most stablecoins at this point, to the US dollar, they implicitly promise more, I think, than any other crypto because they're tied to the dollar, and there are expectations that come with the US dollar and how it's going to perform and how it's going to offer stability and a better deal against like inflationary currencies in different countries. So because it comes with that implicit promise, even though none of the stable coins are actually backed by the by the U.S. federal government, I think it makes sense to focus on that initially. I don't know how it's going to go and how it's going to turn out, whether it's going to be, A, specific and actionable, and B, something that crypto companies can work with, but it makes sense to start there for sure.
Kale?
What stablecoins are they voting on? Do you know?
I think it's just kind of like broad, uh, very broad kind of regulation, but of course they're going to be targeting the big ones.
Yeah, probably
you
like
know.
yeah, that makes sense.
Ooh,
I mean, it's
my
cool
phone
to
is going off. I don't know where my phone even is. Can you hear that?
phone alert. No,
Okay,
No.
good. Well, then don't even worry about it.
the stablecoin thing is cool for me to like hear about, just because the way I see it, it's like the more regulatory clarity that's happening, the better in general. The only thing that's kind of concerning to me is I can see this going in a direction where the U.S. government tries to like corner USDC and USDT, and then it's like if they can control the two main ones, somehow, then they can like influence rollbacks, like chain rollbacks and stuff like that, if something doesn't go their way. Um, which is like governments are known to do stuff like that. So I don't know. That's kind of scary for me as far as like looking into the future of this. So it would be cool to see like them focusing not just on USDC and USDT, but like a whole array of stablecoins, like 15. And that might be a pipe dream. It probably is, but that's where my head is at. I want to see them like spread the love. She'll die some love. So like all the little niche coins, because like that's the whole point of crypto.
Yeah. My greatest fear is that there's going to be a bunch of very old people trying to talk about stable coins pegged to the US dollar, and they're going to be like, well, I haven't been pegged since the 70s.
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah. So let's move off on that amazing segue into more stablecoin news. So Moonpay, a great friend of our company, on-ramp provider, just acquired the API startup Iron, which deals with like stablecoin rails. And I think that this is really cool because, as you were saying, Kale, it's all about having a bunch of different options. And from what I understand of this acquisition, it's going to really allow fintechs, institutions to have these rails to start doing even more stable coins. And we've talked about the start of the stablecoin wars, which we've all kind of highlighted over the last 4 months or so. What are your thoughts about stables in general? Let's use this as a jumping off point to kind of continue where we were.
So Moonpay, what they acquired, it's just basically a way for them to create stablecoins, or
It'll allow businesses to manage multiple treasuries and establish stablecoin payment rails for customers.
okay.
So does that mean every company can just make its own stablecoin and handle payments in its own stablecoin?
I mean, if you've got enough startup money, sure, why not? But I think
Stablecoins for everyone. For you? For
you get a stablecoin, you get a stablecoin. Yeah, I think it's going to just kind of allow even more people to accept these and pay with these. And, if they're going to be managing it, great. If they want to start their own, even better. Because I think that right now, certainly with all the market volatility, stablecoins are kind of interesting to a lot of people.
That's cool. I'm excited to see what Moonpay can do with it. They're a pretty big company. They have a lot of reach. So
For sure.
Exciting news.
So speaking of reach, let's talk about the government some more, reaching into crypto reserves. So over the weekend, we finally got a little bit of indication as to what the crypto strategic reserves would be. And it's kind of just a nothing, right? Like everyone was expecting the U.S. to be like, we're buying these and we're going to go out and get on our Coinbase account and buy them immediately. And they said, no, we've already seized a grip of all of these crypto coins. And so we're just going to like move them from folder A to folder B and just rename folder B the strategic reserve. Talk to me about your feelings on this, Kale.
I see a lot of people panicking, saying that this is like the start of like a fascist revolution where they're going to start like taking all the Bitcoin from people, which is understandable. Like I said a few minutes ago, governments like are known to do these types of things. The only clarification that I have is that, as far as that point goes, from what I understand, they're focusing on acquiring Bitcoin like in a net neutral way. So like they're not going to spend any tax dollars. They're not going to spend any government money. So an example of that could be like the whole Doge efficiency thing. Like if they save $100 million over here, they can take that 100 million and put it into Bitcoin, which would mean technically they didn't like spend any of our money. They just moved it from they better allocated it. So that's like a light in the tunnel where it's like maybe they don't just steal our Bitcoin. That could be an option. But yeah, that's where my head is at right now. If they don't follow through with that, then yeah, we're probably just fucked.
I feel I feel like that loophole, it requires too much accountability on their part and like bookkeeping, and they're not gonna be like, oh yeah, well we saved $20 here, let's go spend $20 on Bitcoin.
I feel you. That's only one example though. You know,
No, for sure.
I still have hope that they might find a way.
But I feel like all of the like they've been posting some lists made of people of net neutral options for how crypto could be acquired, and they are all essentially reallocations of existing budget categories. So let's take some of this here, let's take it out of here and reallocate it into Bitcoin. But it's funny because when I read about it, that it would only be based on forfeiture and not purchases. But I mean, I was a child when the Soviet Union broke up, but the genetic memory, the Soviet genetic memory is strong in me. And the first thing I said to Vince was, suddenly forfeiture becomes much more common and much easier for Bitcoin. So it's funny that Kale and I have quite different backgrounds, and but and I guess from
right to the same point.
Yeah, we got right to the same point. They're just gonna, like the $5 wrench forfeiture, So
yeah, from the government.
From the government, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was a big disappointment for sure for everyone.
I think it's also interesting, kind of as we, of course, are being forced to talk a lot about the government right now because they're at the wheel, driving us willy-nilly, left and right and center, and then sometimes in reverse, frequently in reverse. But so much of this conversation has been like, oh, I hope the government buys our bags. And no one is really kind of like talking about the retail investor, which is kind of a bummer, I feel like. Everyone's kind of focused on institutions and all of this. And I'm like, yeah, but what about the normies of the world? I remember first getting into crypto, it was like, how do we onboard the first billion users into crypto? And now it's like, how do we onboard the banks? And it's just kind of, I feel like we've maybe lost our way a little bit.
Losing the plot.
We're losing the plot, and like the people we're losing the plot for aren't doing what we wanted. So maybe it's time we rethink the story we're telling.
But you also have to realize that even we here in the podcast were talking just a few episodes back about how the president mentioning crypto, the president launching a coin, puts such a spotlight on it and gives it so much more exposure that maybe that's a good in itself. But the thing is, I've been thinking lately in the past few weeks that this is not straight up like exposure marketing for crypto. It also makes it much as complicated as it was before. I think this adds layers of complexity to it that, not only do you have to understand like what crypto is, and also like, is it gambling? Is it a rug pull, or is it a real thing? Now, on top of it, you add Trump, whether you like him or don't like him, that starts playing into you. Add Doge and the confusion, this Doge thing that right now either you love or hate because it's Musk. And then there's this Doge coin. So it adds so much bullshit on top of the stuff that you might have had to understand before, that I almost feel like for the retail investor, it could be a turnoff just from like, you get curious about it, but then it's like, what does it all mean? And you have to figure out much more. We have to figure out, even though we knew the other parts already. Now we are confused because of all of this happening. But for like a newbie retail investor, I feel it's just like adds too much crap to it.
100%.
I mean, that's a good point. Maybe it's a good thing we're not focused on retail investors right now because they've got to just be so confused. What's a Solana? What's a Doge? What is a layer 1?
Yeah, 100%. It's choppy waters out here. It's like throwing the newbies into the ocean.
For
Good
sure.
luck.
And then I'm sure they're also confused by everyone going to the crypto summits. Because, man, there were a bunch of names that I knew, but then there were quite a few that I was just kind of like, I'm not sure who that is. So talk to me about the crypto summit. Was it everything you hoped it would be, or was it an absolute nothing burger?
For me, personally, it was kind of disappointing. I was hoping to watch it live on Twitter. I think it was last Friday. But I couldn't find a link anywhere. I don't think they streamed it. And not only did they didn't stream it, but like there wasn't a link afterwards either. So I was like kind of bummed about that.
Your hot Friday night plans.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. But what was funny for me to see was did you guys see that picture that came out of it? It was like Trump sitting on the table, and then like he had his 12 disciples to the left and right of him. Like it looked like the Last Supper.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Katya,
They're all wearing like we go to crypto summits and conferences a bunch, and like they're all sitting there in their little suits with the little ties, all like looking at Trump to see, like little birds at their mama to see what falls out of its mouth. And, kind of, and I think there was like a football trophy involved, and
Yeah. That was so random.
Absurd. Yes, just absurd things. And I mean, a couple of people who were on the list did not show. Vitalik was not there, which is not so. Can you imagine in that setting? Have you seen the picture? Vitalik in that setting.
Oh. In his rainbow universe.
In his pajamas.
Unicorn.
Yeah, I mean, so it was like, I think that there was an article somewhere that was along the lines of like, this is just more people showing up to kiss his ring, and the people who were there are the ones who are ready to do it and to just keep saying, oh, you're so wonderful, you guys are so wonderful, helping crypto out. And so the people who showed were the people who were ready and primed to do that. And I feel like for the crypto community, for the degen community especially, they're not the people who represent them.
No. Well, listen, that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you so much for listening. You are definitely a lot smarter than you were 22 minutes ago, and we appreciate you being here. So make sure you follow us on wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star review. You can find all of our Twitter handles in the show notes or in the pinned comment or whatever the social media platform du jour has it. Tweet us. Say hi. Say you love the show. Say you hate the show. We love engagement. And thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you both for being here today.
Thanks, Vince.
Bye.
Bye.